Welcome to the weekly open mic call. We do this because MSPs asked us to do it. You wanted to hear what we've been working on, what's new in the platform, and you also wanted to do a little R&D or rob and duplicate automation ideas from your peers. A couple reminders. If you're new here, this is a highly technical call. Meant for folks who are building automations. If you're a decision maker, feel free to listen in, but just keep that key point in mind. Also, Discord. I love it that folks still say normalize Discord use on Discord. In fact, let's go through that spiel. Before telephones, we had carrier pigeons. Then we got telephones. Then we got email. And now we have Discord. It's just a continued evolution to the way we communicate. Please use it. Speaking of Discord, if you're interacting with us, please respond in a thread or tag the person you're interacting with. We're monitoring hundreds of channels at the same time. Also, if you're on Discord and you're new, try to find the Coop channel and the other Birds of a Feather channels. That's where everyone's posting that's not in your channel. You could go in there and see what everybody is chatting away about. Also, ask questions. There are approximately 0 MSPs that have succeeded at automation that have never asked a question. So if you're not asking questions, you are failing. And with that, let me pass it over to Ashe.
Thank you. All right. So did you have slides that you wanted to share?
Oh, crap. I almost forgot.
I'll pass it back.
See, that's how I stressed out Ed. I stressed out marketing by not presenting the slides. I actually have an important announcement to make. Let me share my screen. One moment. Yes, we are announcing Flow 2025. It's at a new hotel. We're still in Tampa, so it'll be the place you know. The hotel is larger and nicer than the hotel we were at before. We're still going to be vendor agnostic. We're going to invite all the vendors, including competitors to Roost, to come to this conference. We need to invite all vendors so that the conference is real and it's not necessarily seen as just a Roost conference, but an automation conference for MSPs. This time, we're trying to do some work on how we can have both leaders and think the decision maker type talks, as well as more technical automation builder talks. Call for papers. Yeah, call for papers are now open, and we're looking for talks about things like, why do you automate? What are you automating? How are you automating? What's the layout or who is automating within your MSP? And where? Like, where are you integrating into the products that you're automating with? Registration's open. Who am I going to see in chat at Flow? I'm super excited. I had so much fun seeing you folks as well. Someone's asking, any plans to make it virtual? Ed, are we going to be looking into that?
I would say probably not for 2025, but something we'll evaluate going forward. Just added a level of complexity and cost that will stress me out, right, Tim, as he notes in the chat.
Roost entirely foots the bill for this vendor agnostic conference. It's kind of crazy. We put up all the money up front, and then we ask Pia to come. It's crazy. All right. Let's normalize stressing it out. Ashe, what's up?
All right, so now we don't have a dev update today, so we're actually just going to jump right over to Danial with an A.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Danial Show. Let me share my screen here. Okay. We have some updates for this week. So some new features that we've added. We have refactored the bring your own device workflow. Those workflows are used in greater refactors of our top 10 crates. So yeah, if you have any crates that use your bring your device workflows, you'll see that those have been updated. We refactored PowerShell execution workflows for use in upcoming top 10 crate refactors. We've added the manual license entry for Microsoft 365 F1 as it was not available in the official SKU CSV. And then we deployed a refactor of the set calendar permissions crate. We had a few bug fixes this week as well. We fixed a Ginjet evaluation error when an empty list was received. And then we also fixed a reference in the Datto PSA create ticket workflow to an old task name and switched that to publish results as. We also added a filter in there too for is active. And then coming soon, I know we've talked about this last couple weeks. We're still working on the final touches of the app builder apps. Those should be, we're working on the cloning and syncing of that. So we'll be able to put those into your environments, into your app builder environments, and those will stay up to date with any of the improvements that we make over time. So again, the 3 apps that we are going to have available shortly are Operational Analytics Portal, a Farms Portal, and an all-in-one Client Portal. Still looking on a November timeline for that. We're still hoping for that, but more updates are incoming. And then we have some top 10 crates work that's being done. The first 3 items are just waiting. They're waiting on release, a few final steps. The Alert 1 mailbox quota full refactor, detailed MFA reporting, configure out of office. And then we have a couple of refactors that are in QA, including change of user's password form, the identified duo users in bypass mode, and then the refactor to the EXO managed mailbox permissions crate. So yeah, that's all that we have going on and coming soon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we will go over to Danial. Not Danial, we just got to Danial. We will do Brandon. Brandon.
You know, I'll take that as a win. If I could be as cool as Danial, even half as cool as Danial, then I might actually be a cool guy. All right, let's share my screen here. All right, can everybody see my screen? Some of you are saying 0 hats in the chat. Who knows? All right, let's dive in. All right, we'll start with our game tip of the week. So I've been talking about Dragon Quest III a lot. I am happy to say that I got Dragon Quest III HD2D Remake. It's finally here, got some hands-on time with it, and it is absolutely incredible. It is beautiful. The music is beautiful. It's a ton of fun. So for those of you out there, if you guys like old school RPGs, turn-based RPGs, and you want kind of a cozy classic to sink your time into over the holidays, you could do worse than Dragon Quest III. It is absolutely beautiful. Highly recommend. So I'm really enjoying myself with that one. Let's go to our shout outs. So shout outs to Charles, Kylan, Jonathan, Keenan, Aston, Justin, Colby, Alex, and Stuart for passing the Foundation's certification. You guys will get your prestigious Certified Rooster badge in Discord and access to our not so secret Discord channel. And shout outs to Ellie, Arbin, Gareth, Jocko, Andrew, Sam, Cody, and Garrett for passing the clean automation certification. So lots of certifications this week. Keep it up, everybody. It is awesome to see this. You guys are doing amazing. For those of you who are new, you can take our CluckU courses and get certified, and you will get some cool access in Discord for getting your, like I said, your certified rooster badge for the foundation certification. For our foundations boot camp, we had our first boot camp in November. We are scheduled out for the beginning of December for those of you who are interested. For those of you who may be new, we have the foundations courses on Roost.help, but you can join them live in a bootcamp format on December 2nd and 3rd. You guys can sign up at calendly.com/clucku. I'll drop the links in here. Day 1 goes through lessons 1 through 3, and day 2 goes through lessons 4 through 7. And it'll, of course, be run by the legendary Eddie Chow. So definitely check that out if you're interested, or if you just want to, do more classes with Eddie, because who wouldn't, right? Otherwise, if you're going through the courses, you can check us out at the CluckU Discord channel. If you guys have any questions, we're happy to jump in, help out. And we also have office hours where you can join us to ask whatever you need to as you're going through your learning journey with Eddie as well. Otherwise, just a couple of updates to some of the pages that we've been working on this week. We have some updates to the ServiceNow integration page. There's a formatting update. We've added a live instructor-led bootcamp section to the foundations lesson page. So if you're looking for that on Roost.help, check out the Cluck University section. You'll be able to find those links there. We've also added some information to the RMM section, and we've reorganized it, and we've updated lesson 4 of our foundations courses to include some special instructions that we referenced before. And we've added some notes to the Ninja One and Data RMM integration setups for those of you who are wanting to get those integrations set up. Otherwise, if you guys are interested in giving us feedback, you can always ping us on Discord. We also have some forms that you can fill out. You can go to Canny, and there is a documentation and training section, or we actually have a form that you can fill out here for feedback as well. So that's it for me this week. Back to you, Ash.
All right. I'm just making sure we had a cancellation, but now he might be able to join us again. So I'm Gareth, if you're on, I'll get to you. We'll get to you after we go through this in a little bit. But to start with, I've been saying for a little while that I was going to show off an example of how we do the setting external object, getting external objects, setting external references. A few people had said that they wanted to see that. And I have a really, really basic example that I set up that I figured that I could show you guys real quickly. Let me just get that up here. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Perfect. All right, so in this situation, I wanted to have a notification. I have a sub workflow where I just wanted it to go and send a message in Slack. It's pretty dynamic. You could kind of plug this in with wherever. But what I wanted it to do was I wanted it to say after it posted that message in Slack for it to associate this this action, this result, with a reference that I could then call back later so that I could post something in the thread of that Slack message without having to have any sort of other associations between the workflows or having to wait for it or having to have the thread anywhere else. So this is just the first one where I am making the Slack message, and this will just be the generic message. And then this is where I have the associate external object. So I'm saying that I'm setting up the identifier that I want this to be called by, and then I'm giving it a reference ID. And so in this case, I think, where did I set these up? It's been a minute, sorry. Yes, I set that up here so that you can choose what you want those to be. And then those will just call through, and I'll show you what that looks like on the result here. So in this case here, I ran the execution. I gave it an identifier. I'll just go the date, and I'll run that. And so that'll post the message in Slack. Get out of my way, Teams. But yeah, all right. And so then, as you can see, this is a demo message to the channel. Posted that. But then this associate exam thread, what I did, this was the example that I was making. It set the identifier and I gave it the reference, which is the thread ID. And then that created this. It's almost like an org var a little bit. I guess somebody can chime in afterwards to get a little bit more detailed, but it also includes the workflow execution ID and the org that it's running in. And so there's a lot of different use cases that's like, if I wanted to call this back, like to say like what execution made this thing happen, for example, and I wanted to use a friendly reference, I could do that. But in that case, that's just setting that. Now, in this case, I have a reference where I'm saying I want to post, but I want to post it in the associated thread. And so I have a similar sub workflow, but in this case, I'm doing a get external reference. I'm giving it the org ID, and then I'm giving it the identifier that I want to look up. And then that's going to return back a similar thing that we'll look at on the result. But then in this Slack message, I'm just saying that I want the thread to be what the thread ID is. And I gave it the D so that if it's not existing, it'll just post a regular message. And then I also gave it some clarification on like, maybe I want it to be a broadcast or not be a broadcast. So this is the result that will run to show that happening. And so this is just the thread. I gave it the information. And then in this case, I'm giving it that same identifier that I had before. I'm running that. And then you can see it went through, and you can see that the reply came through. It threaded it. It broadcasted it because I wanted it to. And so now anything that I run through here that has that identifier will, like if I were to like rerun this again, it would post the same message in the same thread, or it should. Yes, it did. So, and so yeah, so that's kind of just like a simple example. I'm sure that people can go out there and like think of all different kinds of creative ways that they can benefit from friendly reference identifiers. But yeah, that was what I wanted to show. So I will stop sharing now because we've got some other stuff. Did anybody have any questions? And I did not pay attention to the chat, so speak up if there's any questions. Otherwise, we will move on.
I had one. What's the life cycle of these and where are they stored?
I asked that question. Somebody can chime in and interrupt me if they want on the dev side. I kind of got a like, it's a long time kind of answer. I'm not sure if somebody.
I don't know if my microphone's working. Yeah, it is. Okay. So it gets stored in a table in the database. I think it's its own table. In terms of how long it stays, I'm not sure because I haven't looked into that. But I know it's stored in its own table.
Cool. All right. So we will jump now to Brian, who is going to show us something neat that might be a tip or a trick for somebody on his side too, about undocumented APIs.
Yeah, so what made me think of what to show this off is John showed off last week how he was able to build out ConnectWise Home authentication. And I think it might be helpful to know that we have a lot of API endpoints available to us that maybe the vendor hasn't done the best job of documenting and sharing. I think the one that I run into the most is actually ConnectWise with PSA, because for whatever reason, they still have not rebuilt all of their Ruby on Rails stuff from Ruby over to their REST API. So I run into things that I try to do within a standard workflow that ends up becoming difficult to do with the way that they have their API documented. So one of the ones is something really simple. It's assigning somebody to a ticket and then being able to have them get the assignment note. If you do it through the GUI right here, so I'll just assign myself to this. You see, you get this nice, cool little pop-up box. Well, I assign myself. All right, I'm gonna make one of my coworkers mad because I forgot it doesn't do when you assign yourself. Who am I gonna make mad? So you get this nice pop-up window, and when you hit send, they're gonna get an email that alerts them, hey, you've got a new ticket that you have to work, and then you also get the little bell icon that goes off saying you've been assigned to something. It's a really good way to make sure you don't get work lost. When I'm going to delete that because he doesn't need to be on there. And I'll apologize to him later. When you're doing something like assigning a resource through an automation, like through Ruse, like for example, on this one, I'm going to set myself as the owner on this very same workflow. When I get done with that workflow, and I go back and refresh the ticket when it gives me the little green box saying it was good. You'll note that on there, it didn't give me an option for how to, like, any kind of note to send to it. Doing some looking around, see it assign me, but there's no notation here, and there was no notice then sent to my email and to the little bell icon. So with this being one of the old-fashioned Ruby on Rails endpoints, I mean, really, we're going to do some really super secret stuff here. I'm going to hit F12. I happen to have a shirt for this very instance. I've got to be careful about doing this here in the state of Missouri. Our governor, as you may know, thinks that hitting F12 means I'm a hacker. So the way that you can end up doing this is just replicating the action here with your dev tools open. You just take a look at it, and we're going to actually sniff what it actually does when I test this. So I'm going to do it again. Well, save, and then testing. So what it did is, which one is it? It is the, hang on, I forget which one it is. Send status request. There it is. It's here. What we have to do is we have to then expand out this box and start to look through what important bits of information are needed for this. So for example, I can see that the request URL is this entire thing. I can see it was a post. I get to see that it was, the content type on the request headers. We'll say it was an application XW, whatever, all that stuff. I get to see those things that get sent over with it. And then I get to see the payload in a very nice, easy to see and readable way. But I can also then flip it over to the URL encoded and view the source. And this is what I can then use to borrow to construct my payload for being able to replicate the exact same thing. I think somebody needs to hit leave on there. There we go. What I can do then is I can then take this and construct what my payload's going to look like. Now, I've done this one in the past. So I've actually got this one documented, and I've built out, here are all my required variables. Here's the action, here's the URL, here's my headers, and then here's what this payload looks like. And you just have to read through then the URLized version of this to make sure that you're replacing out all the important bits like the member ID, the ticket ID, what that node is, format it all properly, So you've got things like, for whatever reason, they replace their spaces with pluses. That's how they handle that for the URLized. You have to URL encode your emails, things like that. So I've then taken that and been able to replicate that. So if I were to say go to this one, I've hard coded it to myself, and I hit test on this now that it's utilizing the formatting that I've got all of this. Failed. Uh-oh. The other fun part is that ConnectWise's API likes to just not reply every once in a while. So that was awesome. I don't need to spend too much time troubleshooting that, but I did want to show that, you know, you've got options for when you hit a limitation on your service, if the authentication still works for it. And with ConnectWise on PSA, all of these Ruby on Rails actions use the exact same authentication. Or I don't know, if you want to say, for example, scrape upcoming sports games from a website and they don't have a publicly documented API, and they use the lyrics from Rick Astley's Never Want to Give You Up to hash their MD5. Do whatever you want. Just use this as an opportunity, as a tool to expand your tool set and be able to get more out of your automation than the documentation always says you're able to. Any questions? Not seeing any roll up here, but
Lots of celebration. All right,
See a hand?
Brian. Brian got a question for Brian?
Does this action specifically send the email and the assignment, or is it just the email?
so that action specifically actually just handles doing the notification piece of it. The assignment actually has an endpoint that works. It's a patch where you can handle that portion of it. Or if you're only adding one resource, the really cheap and easy way is to just do that ticket update action with ConnectWise and just add them as the owner of the ticket. It automatically adds them as a resource, but if you need to add additional ones, there is actually a patch for that to add additional ones.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I just wanted to throw real quick the thing that Brian just showed with F12ing and finding API endpoints is actually gold. Like that is a huge thing to learn, to watch and find and be able to abuse or use things that vendors don't tell you are possible, but they're obviously possible because you can do it via the front end.
All right. Thank you, Alden, for your additions. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for the questions. We are going to jump now over to Gabriel. It's your turn.
Hello. Thanks, Ashe. Thanks, everyone, for having me. Today, I wanted to showcase for MSPs, something that maybe you haven't thought about with Roost and Nerdio. So obviously cloud and Azure is the big thing, and everybody's moving to AVD environments for many reasons. But Nerdio is really good. It has a lot of scripts and it has a lot of automation already, but it lacks a sort of MSP integration. So when it comes to tickets, notifications, interacting with data RMM or whatever your RMM tool is, it can't really do it too well. So while they can, they have automation built in to reimage a host and redeploy a host, they're lacking some of the features and some of the error handling needed in order to truly have that be automated. So one of the workflows that I made is for image maintenance, and it is for saving the technicians a lot of time installing software, updating apps, updating Windows, building the image, setting it as an image, using that image to then re-image a host, redeploy the host, all that good stuff. So I'll share my screen out and just kind of show some of the highlights there. Sec. Do you see that?
Yep.
All right, so it looks like a lot, but part of the complex, like the actual functionality of it is very straightforward. It's just very linear, you know, first do this, then do that, then do that, then do that. I created a ton of sub workflows for this, but I'll highlight some of them at the high notes. The reason it looks complex is because I wanted to catch any possible failures, and that's where this really shines, because in Nerdio, you can let something rip, like you can let an automation rip, but unless you're sitting there hovering over the little diag window that pops up, or the log window, you're not going to know. There's no email sent out, there's no Teams message sent out, so you're basically just hovering around your laptop for an hour, maybe hour and a half, waiting for it to finish, and then combing over the logs and seeing if there's an issue. So this workflow, fairly straightforward. It creates a ticket to start off, starts collecting summary notes. It uses an RMM tool for the virtual images. So that's how I'm doing a lot of the manipulation for software. So I start by collecting some information. I check to see if the virtual machine is on my desktop image that I'm going to update. If it is already on, obviously that's not good because that's incurring charges. So I catch that, put it in a ticket. I wait, I install the RMM agent on it so I can remote into it. If it doesn't come on after a certain time, that's another error that I catch. I create a critical ticket and stop the workflow. Once the RMM agent is installed, I then start submitting jobs to it. So down here, like these two first blocks are just setting up, like creating a ticket, is the RMM agent on, power it on, verify that it's on, and good to go. If we make it past all that, then I start submitting jobs to Datto to do a lot of the work for me. So I update software, I update Office, I update Adobe Pro. Due to the nature of Adobe, I have to restart the VM at some point, otherwise it'll say it failed even though it didn't. I update Windows through Nerdio. So one of the cool things about Nerdio is that it's hooked into Azure so deeply that I said this in the Nerdio, their version of the Open Mic. It was a webinar. I don't want to say Roost allows for backdoor access into a lot of systems, but Roost is very powerful, and obviously we all know that. So you're not supposed to be able to just log into one service and you're already pre-authenticated with everything, especially in Azure. Because Azure, every time you make an API call, you're supposed to obviously do OAuth authentication or some sort of authentication with permissions and RBAC and all that good stuff. But as long as you have the Nerdio integration, you have all of that. So you don't have to really worry about getting authenticated or getting tenant IDs. Like a lot of it is already, Nerdio does it for you. So powering on an image, powering off an image, obviously those are built-in tasks, but you also have the ability to do runbooks in the Azure environment, and runbooks are extremely powerful because they let you do PowerShell to control pretty much anything in your tenant. That's just raw. You can do Python or PowerShell, whatever you want to do. So that's how I accomplished a lot of it. And while most of these are built-in tasks that Roost has with Nerdio, one of them is not a task that I had to get very creative for, and that is the re-imaging the host sub workflow. So the way we do it is we have a virtual machine that acts as our template. we update that template, and it's our golden image. That's the one that we have to keep updated at all times in case of disaster recovery. So once we update that image, we set it as a gallery image that we can then use as a template for another VM called the host. And that's what when we say reimage, we're basically rebuilding a host VM, like a session host, with that golden image gallery image. But that image is not, you can't find it. There's nothing in the Nerdio API that just naturally gets it. So if you don't have the name of the image that you just created, which Nerdio adds a lot of they add a lot of characters to it, and they timestamp it, they modify it. So it's not just a simple naming convention. It's not like golden image, gallery image 1, 2, 3, it's a lot more than that. So because the API endpoint didn't provide a way for you to get that, their API endpoint for reimaging a host was basically useless, because you can't do it unless you have the image name. So using Nerdio as an easy way to run Azure CLI commands and be in the Azure environment, I was able to query all the images, sort them by when they were created, and Nerdio uses a lot of tags, thankfully. So I was able to get the creation date, and I was able to match the creation date with the workflow date and verify that that image had just been recently created. So I'm basically getting the latest image name in my resource group, and finally I'm able to give that to the Nerdio API. So that's something cool that I'm sure a lot of you professionals here in the chat know, that just like Ryan was explaining in the previous segment, that if there's documentation missing or functionality missing, it's not necessarily the end of the road. You can still get clever and figure something out, which in this case allowed me to do something that a lot of MSPs were asking for, is like, how do you automate updating a template image and reimaging a host, because you have a lot of the pieces but you couldn't put it together. So once all that's done, I send notification to teams, so the technicians know what was done. Obviously, if there's any errors, I create another ticket and I close everything out afterwards. So this has saved us lots and lots of time. But yeah, so I guess we'll leave it to any questions if anybody has any.
I lost my mic. Okay, there we go. Any questions for Gabriel? Looks like we're good.
White light mode. Sometimes I take my laptop for a ride outside to go sit in. I live in Philly, so there's a lot of like outdoor seating available, and my laptop is not bright enough to show dark mode, so I have to do light mode. Yeah, I know that weird place where the sun shines out there. It's strange stuff, but I brave it.
All right. So, Gareth, are you on?
Hi.
All right, we're good for you now.
So this was like a last minute thing, so I wasn't too sure if I'm going to make it or not. So I'm not going to run the flow. I've got everything kind of set up in the background, just guess I didn't have time. So just to kind of give Devin from XSIT, he's shared the conditional access, which I believe we demonstrated was last week or week before. But yeah, essentially what it did were really, really good. Massive thank you to him for sharing it. It basically kind of, in my case, I had to change it to like a UK only because I'm based in the UK. But it only excluded it from that group. Now, to me, that part was a little bit of a security concern, because obviously if they're going across to, let's say, India or kind of whatever, Greece, wherever they want to go on holiday, you want it to make sure it's still restricted down to that country as well, because essentially if you're just excluding them, you're just basically saying anywhere in the world can access. So let me quickly share my screen. So I'm not going to go through each part because I haven't really made many changes. The only difference is kind of on here. He had an extra step to get the approvals details. But if you guys have been coming the last few weeks, you guys have seen my customized approval process and stuff, which I'm not built in yet, but I will be. So it is set up a little bit differently. But if we go down to here, so it does the kind of same sort of thing here. It kind of goes and checks, see, the eligible policies, kind of what's there. Let me get this, minimize this. So yeah, essentially all this is doing is checking for when it wants to load. Really? Now it decides going to go slow. Well, inside there, it's just a bit of code to check for the specific UK only group. And then what it essentially does, it then goes updates the ticket, nice and simple, UK only policy found. And then this is kind of where some of the changes kind of come in. So obviously kind of goes through gets the conditional access policies, gets the list ready and everything else, and then the delay. So that's the part that Devin already created. So the one thing for that needs to be done is whenever you're doing anything is you need that name location. If that name location is there, you cannot put it on any sort of policy. So what this essentially does, it goes and checks to see if the name location exists. If it does exist, then it'll kind of get the ID of it because everything has to have an ID when you're adding it in. It will go at it, then straight away go and create a policy. Whereas if it's not, it will go create it. Now this wasn't very fun. I had to go through. Please load. It's not going to show. It's not. Not to show anything showing. So long story short, we're getting there. I had to go through each country and then put them all down to 2 letters. So the way the API works is you have to have the 2 letters for each country, and as you can imagine, there's a big list. That took me a fair bit of time to do. And then what it'll do, it'll go off. It will create that name location, and then it will create a separate conditional access policy for that user. So once it's kind of run, the way it kind of goes is it will exclude them from the UK only. It will create that new policy with that named location for that specific user, and it will also make sure MFA is enabled. So they have to use MFA while they're abroad. So it's that extra layer of security. And then obviously it will go through and it will actually patch it and put that user on it. So once that's done, it will go send the cyber email. So again, I know Devin showed this. It's a good idea, so I've kind of kept that. And then what it'll do, it'll update the ticket with all the details. I'll show you the tickets in a moment. And then same again, it will do a core workflow. Once it does a delay, this is to remove it. So I have created something a little bit different here. So after it's essentially sent it after the users now officially on holiday, all that policy part's been done, it will close that ticket off. Because, if they're going for a couple of weeks, sometimes a couple of months, you don't want that ticket constantly sat there. So what I've done is it will kind of do the same sort of thing. It'll go through the delay time. Once it starts running, it will create a ticket based off that. So essentially you're not having something that's just sat there on your dispatch for ages or kind of wherever you got these tickets sitting. It will create that new ticket under the user that it's supposed to be running for, and then just does the opposite to kind of what I've done. So it'll get all the policy details. It will remove the list, and then it will go back to the UK only, and then essentially it will patch it again. So basically, it will remove them from the country that they came from, then re-add them back to the UK. So now they're back to being UK only. So yeah, just these extra couple of steps, it just makes it that little bit more secure. Because again, you kind of don't want it where people you just exclude them from the group and stuff like that, and then not have still some sort of restriction in place. So this does do that for them. And the same sort of thing, it'll update the ticket when it's done, and then it'll close the ticket, and then you've got the cyber email again. So I'll show you the tickets. So this is kind of way we've gone through it. So this is kind of after it's been posted. So it'll look for the policy, saying that obviously it's found it, and basically saying the conditional access has been applied. As you can see here, MFA, etc., etc. But this is kind of the fun stuff. I made it generate a summary just because obviously we all like that audit to me, I like to keep everything well documented. So Albania is just obviously it's just an example of the list. You'll say when it was created. Again, I haven't been able to run this today to show you guys, but at least you kind of get the overall idea. It will give all the policy information. So as you can see here, the policy will say only access from Albania for the YIT demo. So on the conditional access, it's literally telling you exactly what that policy is, and there's a URL for it. So if you ever need to go check it, it's all built in there. That was a bit tricky to kind of get for some reason, but yeah, managed to get that sorted, and it's just a nice little touch. So if you ever want to kind of double check your work, it's there. And then obviously, it'll say the user, the location, applications on in this case, and it'll grant controls via MFA, and then just a general breakdown of the engineers, and just make sure the users are informed, so our engineers know to make sure, because this will eventually be where the clients can run it themselves, but I mean, I've just got it obviously for the engineers until I get the customized approval stuff done. So yeah, it just kind of gives them all stuff they want, and as it says in here, so there's no confusion around engineers. Ticket will be closed, and the ticket will be generated on, and then it will obviously say date, time, and everything else. And then when it comes to that date, nice, quick, and easy, simple thing. So what this will essentially do is it will create another one here, so returning from Albania, and then it'll be the same sort of thing. It will reference the previous ticket of where it was created, just in case you ever want to see, like, oh, when was this done or anything like that. Kind of keeps it together. And then, yeah, it just gives a rundown of the expected return date, everything else on here, what the action plan is of it, and yeah, essentially everything it's removed. But yeah, again, it's just that, it's well audited, and again, on security, it is pretty good. So yeah, that's kind of the changes I made. But again, massive thank you to Devin for sharing it and allowing me to kind of add all these little bits as well. Any questions or?
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Gareth? Doesn't look like it. All right. Well, we are now 10 minutes to the top of the hour. So it's time for open Q&A, or if anybody's got anything that they want to ask about or show off impromptuli. Wondering how many hats Brandon's going to make up for next week because he didn't have any today. Actually, that's a funny story. I think somebody stole him. He keeps getting stolen. Goose. I had a little goose that I carried around with me at IT Nation, and he was crocheted.
Where's the hat?
Stole it.
Where's the hat, Ashley? Since you were the receiver of that.
I do have the hat. Yes, it's in my suitcase still because I haven't unpacked it.
I can share something, Ash, if you want.
Sure, Jen.
So I had a little epiphany at IT Nation listening to some things that happen at IT Nation, and I'm like, I need to get better at recording my time. And like a lot of people, you kind of just like get dug down into it and you don't think of it. So I dug into C# a little bit over the weekend, and I made this little time entry prompter. And what it does is you just, 15-minute window or however long you want, and you time in your notes, a ticket number or a work type, and I send it off, and it saves it to my ConnectWise, and it disappears. And it shows up in my Action Center area, which you can't see because this isn't my main monitor, but I can add time entries whenever I want, and it just pops up every 15 minutes and bothers me. So I added it to the Discord if people want to use it and download it.
Hey, Jen, you reminded me.
Yeah.
That we have to put time savings on our workflows.
You do.
And we have to escalate our time savings to senior management. Oh, you got a cat. Kitty,
I do have a cat. Yes, my cat is also on me.
the best automations are the easiest to forget. And I always say that, but I mean, think about all the automations we use every day that we don't even know we use them. One example is like ABS brakes in your car. It's basically an automation, right? Using sensors to determine whether or not I want to smack the pedal repeatedly versus hold it down.
Yeah.
And no one sits around thinking about the automation.
Mm-mm. No, I just needed something in my face. Just get something in there. I kind of likened it to that TV show that was on years ago where you had to like bank the money or you lost it if somebody missed answering a question. So I just got to bank my time when I think of it, and then it's easier to go back and fill the rest in later.
Now
Even if
you
it's-
just got to build a cat face onto it so that it mirrors.
Yes, I have plenty of cats to take the pictures from and bounce that off of, so I don't think I'll have a problem with that. If anybody's in Connecticut and you want kittens, I got kittens.
I want to.
I have a quick workflow slash other stuff that I can show if someone wants to see.
Do it.
Sure.
You
This
won't.
one.
You won't.
Bet. I use that meme way too much. Thank you very. So this doesn't actually have any business benefit, and that's okay. Not everything has to have a business outcome, business benefit. I also realize my webcam is not working, so I'm not going to flip it on. But so here, and actually it does have a business benefit. This is kind of how you can portray information to your company without
Your screen's not showing.
I know. I'm getting it pretty. This is a way that you can portray information to your employer, whatever, without actually sharing anything that you don't want publicized, being able to work on it and make it pretty. So here I've got a quick workflow that hits my last.fm account, grabs the top artists API, the recent tracks, and the weekly listen tracks. I do realize that there's too many E's there. It's all right. And then it collates them all into a template, and the body of which is just a real ugly group of for loops that turn it into a nice JSON object. And then from there, I built out a quick little web app that needs to be migrated to App Platform or App Builder, but been a little bit lazy. But I have that running on a cron job here. So every every 2 hours, it just checks and scrapes an updated copy of my workflow or my music history, and then otherwise I have a webhook that posts the response of the cache. And then I just built a quick little web app here where it kind of goes through that cache and then builds out both a list of the 50 most recent listened items, and then also historically over the past 3 months the top artists I've listened to, which for business maybe this isn't a metric that you care about your CEO seeing, but if you put this in context of the top 3 or the top 16 most verbose clients, most biggest issues, things like that, you can pull rich data very easily, have nice hover over effects and everything, and have that all be kind of just information that Roost is in the background picking up and making making visible and making not look like what we would look at it with JSON and be super okay with. Obviously, with JSON, that's not something that's very palatable to people that aren't us. So if any of us are looking at this is a stomachable view. But if we're going to a C-suite to go show them off, hey, this is where we need to focus our efforts. We need to focus our efforts on currents. And so, being able to convey that data and turn it into a pretty chart is really big for a lot of us. Just something I made for fun, as well as a way to display data without displaying company data. And that's my little bit.
Thank you. Love the impromptu show-offs. All right. Any other questions for Alden, or we might pass it over to our fearless leader for a sign-off?
Great turnout today. At one point, we had at least 190 people on. Keep spreading the word. It all comes together like I opened this, which is we have to communicate and talk to each other in Discord to learn things, just like jumping on this call to see what everyone's working on. Gets our automation creative juices flowing. So thanks for the tremendous turnout. Also, thank you to the folks demoing. You demoed in front of like 190 people. So thanks for doing that. It can be stressful and it takes time out of your day. A reminder, help folks in the coop. If your peers are posting with automation questions, feel free to jump in and help them. With that, I'm going to give everyone 1 minute back because we're going to see you here next Friday at the same time. Talk to you folks next week. Have a good weekend, everybody. Toodles.
Bye.
Meow.